welcome to another edition of Ask Sheila, the day that I talk about your questions to do with marriage and sex. And today's is a little bit of a more serious one. I thought I would tackle it this month in November since we're talking about intimacy all month on the blog. And this one's from a guy, and I'm going to read it to you. My wife and I married 18 years ago. She will not initiate sex except maybe once every few months. I am tired of the negative cloud over our home, and I work as much as I can just to stay busy and stay out of her way. Yikes, I'm really sorry. I have stopped asking for sex, and after a few weeks of no sex, I get to my limit and I'll casually ask her, but she's usually too tired or too sick or whatever, and I drop it. She and I talked the other day, and she told me that we have only made love 2 or 3 times ever. I asked her what she means by making love, and she said, just figure it out. I asked, come on, tell me what you mean. And she said, see, you just wouldn't understand. I looked all over the web and I can't find the answer. Can you tell me what she's referring to? Help. Okay, this is actually something that I really am quite passionate about because I don't think that we really understand the difference between having sex and making love. Okay, I like to say that billions of people on this planet have had sex, but I don't know how many have really made love because they aren't the same thing. And what making love means is that you're encompassing all aspects of intimacy in one act. It's not only about the physical joining, it's also feeling really emotionally and spiritually connected. And by spiritually connected, I'm not talking about some mystical thing. I'm talking about that feeling like you're truly one, that you truly belong together, that you long to be totally intimate with one another. That's what's supposed to happen. And she's saying that's not happening. Now, I can't tell you why, because there's a whole lot of different reasons that this can get messed up in a marriage, but I want today to give you 3 potential scenarios that she might be talking about. I wish I had more background and I don't. But here's the way that I think a lot of women experience this and where we get into a lot of problems. First of all, and probably the most common reason, is because she feels like sex is primarily about him getting his physical needs met. Now, this doesn't mean that he thinks that it's that, okay? He might genuinely be feeling like it's us being joined together and that we're having fun, but for whatever reason, she feels like sex is only about him getting his physical needs met. Maybe that's because they don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make her feel good. Maybe it's because she's given up trying to feel good. Maybe it's because she grew up in this culture which told her that sex is primarily about him. And even in the Christian culture, we do this. Like that whole idea where there's every man's battle, you know, like every guy is going to lust after women, and if he doesn't have sex every 3 days, he's going to be tempted to look elsewhere. Let me tell you, if you are a woman and you grew up hearing that message, yeah, you're gonna think sex is a terrible thing. You're gonna think, okay, he only wants me for what I can do for him. He doesn't really want me. He just wants my body. And it makes sex feel really empty and really degrading. We need to stop talking about sex that way because it ruins a woman's sex drive. It totally does. It starves her of what she really needs from sex, which is that feeling of deep and intimate connection. So it could be that she grew up hearing these messages and she just can't separate those messages from what you're doing. And so she feels like when we're having sex, you are using me. And there's only been a handful of times where I haven't felt used. And I don't know what she may have meant by that. Maybe there were a handful of times that were really romantic. I don't know. But that's what she might be feeling, is that sex is only about using me. It's not about us. And again, I am not saying that he's necessarily doing these things to her. But if he's always thinking about sex in terms of this is something that I need and you need to give it to me, or I feel really rejected if we don't have sex, she can start to feel like sex is the way that you love me, and if I don't give this to you, you're going to reject me. Because, you know, what he's saying is he's starting to withdraw. You know, he tries to stay busy and tries to stay out of her way because he finds it too difficult to be with her. Now, I'm not trying to let her off the hook here, okay, because I do believe that sex is very crucial in a marriage, and I even have a course called Boost Your Libido where I help women feel more in the mood. I do think sex is important, but if he withdraws every time she says no, at the same time as she has this really weird vision of sex, it's just going to exacerbate how degrading she sees sex as. And so if they can have more of a conversation about intimacy and how he just longs to truly know her, and if he can start a night by saying, can you tell me what you're thinking today? Tell me about the best thing that happened to you today, and tell me about the worst thing that happened to you today. Let me truly know your heart. And if he can spend more time doing that, then she can feel really accepted, and then maybe she won't feel like the only time that you really love me is when I do something for you with my body, which can really rob her of her libido and really rob her of this idea that we're connecting. So that's the first reason. The second reason may be that she's just simply never had fun, except for maybe 2 or 3 times. Like maybe she has never felt real desire. She's never really felt aroused. And so sex has always become about him. Because if she's saying, okay, there's only been a handful of times, then yeah, she could feel like sex is always for you. And if sex is always for him, and is never for her as well, then it's not, she may not see that as making love, because, hey, if sex is just for you, then it's not really an intimate experience. It's something that I'm doing for you, but it's not something that's about us. And if sex is not about us, then it's not making love. So ask yourself, is my wife actually getting pleasure out of sex? Because if she isn't, you need to do something. You really do. Now, sometimes the reason she's not getting pleasure is because she just sees sex in such a warped way, or she doesn't have a clue how to make her body feel good or how to enjoy sex, that she's just not there. And if that's the case for your wife, this book can really help. 31 Days to Great Sex. It's a series of challenges that you can do as a couple. It helps awaken her sex drive. It takes you through exercises so that she can learn what feels good, but it also takes you through exercises so that you can increase the affection quotient in your marriage and all kinds of things like that, so that she feels closer, which is really important. So if she's just never felt good in bed, then that also could be a reason. Then there's a third reason, and this one's one that I'm not sure that's what she's referring to, because she's saying that you should already know, but so this may not apply to this particular letter writer, but it's one that I'm increasingly seeing in some of my reader questions, which is, if making love is about 2 people being fully present and being completely focused on each other, then if she's not able to focus on him, she's not going to experience it as making love. And one of the reasons that I'm seeing that women aren't able to focus on their husbands is if they've been exposed to a lot of pornography or a lot of erotica. And so while they're having sex with their husband, their mind is going in all these different directions and they're fantasizing about something else, and so they're not really making love. So if the way that she's getting aroused is by fantasizing about something else, then she's not really present. And for a lot of women, that's also what they mean when they say we've never made love. I don't know which scenario applies to your marriage, but I do want to say that in marriages, sex is supposed to be about this deep, intimate longing and connection. And we've lost that to a large extent because we have made sex so physical. And even the way we talk about it in the church makes it sound like sex is just this base drive that he has, that she has to meet, as opposed to sex is something beautiful that God created for us. And I really think that needs to change. Because if we're going to experience all that sex has, we need to see it as intimate on all different levels. I mean, okay, even from a purely physical standpoint, all right? A woman is way more likely to reach orgasm if she feels like she's really cherished by her husband and if she feels connected to her husband. That's one reason that in the surveys that I did for the Good Girl's Guide to Great Sex, the women that are the most likely to reach orgasm are those who've been married for 16 to 24 years, okay? When they feel really connected, really committed, they're able to be totally vulnerable with their husbands, that's when your body starts to kick in. So, our physical desire, our physical arousal is actually fueled by emotional vulnerability. The more that we can open up with each other, the more it's going to fuel your desire for sex, and then the more you have sex, the more that fuels your emotional vulnerability with each other, and it's a big circle. So I would just say, if you're feeling really trapped in your marriage and in this terrible cycle where she never wants sex and she's rejecting you and you're pulling away from her and it's just driving this huge distance between you, then please stop what you're doing and start talking about intimacy and how we can get back on the right track, because I do believe it's possible. And, for her, if it really is a matter that she just has never experienced pleasure during sex, maybe what she needs to read is The Good Girl's Guide to Great Sex. Okay, this is everything about sex that every married woman needs to know. And for a lot of women who grew up seeing sex as something really shameful, this can unlock that door, and this can help her see that God actually made sex to be hot and holy at the same time. So I really hope that helps. I think that sex is designed to be this amazing intimate experience that a couple can have, and where you really get to experience passion because you're carried away by something. You're not in control anymore. You really are totally wrapped up in someone else. It's an amazing gift, and I'm sorry that so many people aren't experiencing that. And I hope that To Love, Honor, and Vacuum, I can help break down some of those walls and help get us in the right direction. So I hope that helps. Keep sending questions my way. Put any comments in the bottom, and I'll put some links in the description box on YouTube to some other posts about how you can make sex both hot and holy at the same time and experience that real spiritual intimacy when you make love. Thanks for joining me.